How is Cottar significant to African safari today?
Well, the Cottars came 100 years ago. Actually, they came in 1909 from America.
Right.
And they were one of the first to bring in vehicles into Kenya. They were the first to do some of the first films here. And they would take it back to America, sort of David Attenborough style, and do stand-up presentations to town halls. And over 5 generations, we have adapted and innovated and are now one of the leading luxury sustainable travel organizations in East Africa. So the family came in 1909, sorry, and in 1919 we set up Cottar's Safari Service and have guided everyone from royalty, the first color film. Today we have an award-winning camp and villa in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We're small, we're family-run, but we sort of punch above our weight in terms of leading the global safari industry in image, in quality of product, in sustainability.
Louise, allow me to jump in right there just before you get on to even more interesting conversation. I just want to understand one thing. You said the family came in 1901. That is so many years ago, but mostly driven by the film works that the family was doing, so they decided to set up in Kenya. Has this in any way had an impact on the film industry? Allow me to ask that.
I think it has. We have one of the largest private archival collections of safari photography and film. Paul Hoffler did the first color film here with us. So I think it definitely led the way for future documentaries. We were the first also to set up safaris just so people could take photos. You know, we take it for granted today, but in the 60s, before 1960, people really didn't come for photographic or video safaris. So I think it has had an impact. Our camp today is a sort of a 1920s style camp that is based on the Out of Africa.
What is a 1920 style camp?
Sorry, I missed that.
What is a 1920 style camp?
Yeah, so our camp is based on a sort of 1920s style because, you know, when you think of going on safari, often the movie Out of Africa comes, but we also think that you don't need, you know, big modern flashing lights. You don't need a lot of mod cons. Of course, we have Wi-Fi throughout, but we've gone back to what made safari special in the first place, and that's about location. That's about being with communities. That's about wildlife and wilderness, and the camp is luxury, but also simple. We've also done a next iteration, which is a private villa, which won Best Private Villa in Africa at the World Travel Awards. So I guess our family are significant for adapting and innovating and doing the next iteration of luxury safari sustainable travel.
Right. And let me jump into matters conservation. Of course, we've seen so many strides and efforts towards this. Of course, with the Africa Wildlife Foundation in Nairobi, we've seen how Rwanda has been working hard to, champion the conservation strategies. But with you, on the other hand, as, of course, Cottar, what exactly are you doing? And speak to me more into a sustainable driven tourism. How do the two go hand in hand, and how are you going about it?
We've decided not to buy land. We sit on community land. It's community owned. And we've worked very closely with the community to give them the options in terms of development. So we use travel and tourism to convert that into a community dividend, and also to secure biodiversity through community managed land, which means that the community own the conservancy where we are situated. They get the dividends. We share the business model. We put profits at the local level rather than keeping them among middlemen or in foreign countries. Our team are all Kenyan as well. So we have a 7,000-acre conservancy, and we've been given a lot of help by AWF to do it right. but really letting the community decide which way they want to develop, which way they want to use their land, and make tourism and conservancy a better economic model than agriculture or cattle.
Right. Louise, before I let you go, of course, one thing that I want us to look at and touch base with is that you are celebrating 100 years of pioneering Africa safari tourism. This, of course, means that you've seen a lot of things change for the past century. Speak to me more in terms of technology. We've seen disruption in literally every market, every industry. How has this had an impact on your industry in specific?
Well, I think land use change has had the biggest impact.
Right.
And that's not about poaching. That's about humans deciding what they want to do with their land. And if it's more valuable being for agriculture, then it will go to agriculture. So I think us in the travel and tourism industry, we have to make it valuable to the people that matter, to the people that make those choices. In so many other developed worlds, they've chosen not to have wildlife. So for places in Africa that have wildlife, it has to be economically viable. And I think that's the change. It's not about saving animals, or that's a great outcome. It's about giving humans and communities the economic imperative to look at wildlife as valuable.
And how is tech at the center of this?
I missed that question, sorry.
How is technology being at the center of all of this?
So we do a lot in mapping of land use change from satellite imagery, so we can see, what's the impact of wildlife, what's the impact of agriculture, and what's the economic return. So we use technology in that way. We also use drone technology as well. I mean, of course, it's very important, but giving people economic choices is probably the factor that matters most.
Louise, thank you very much for joining us.